Hello, I'm going to talk a little Days of Our Lives for the first time in a couple of weeks. Haven't touched upon the last couple of weeks because I didn't feel like I had enough to really talk about or what I wanted to talk about. But this week, a hell of a lot happened as the second to last week of May sweeps. I still say the new writers are doing pretty good with getting Ron's slop that they've had to deal with and trying to make it more meaningful. And like I said my last couple of times I did talk about Days, what the writing is doing right is making the characters feel like real characters again and just real people and not caricatures like pretty much everyone was under Ron's pen. They still have trouble with all these younger characters to me. I just don't care about most of them. I did kind of like Ariana coming back to town, and then she immediately sleeps with Doug the third. I don't like that if they're just setting up another triangle on the show or trying to with that, but we'll see. But the first thing I need to talk about is, of course, the John Black story and tying that to Bo's story. The show has a really tough task of obviously killing off John Black after Drake passed away at the end of last year. So they have to, pay respects to Drake, but also the character of John. The way they did it is, I'm okay with it, but I see some people online maybe not that happy with them bringing on a different actor to play John in these last two episodes. Now they don't show his face, obviously, so we're just supposed to believe it's John. They did it by making John go to help Steve and Sean try and get the medication they need for Bo that was stolen by some junkie. And they had some crazy code they had to get to break into it, so they needed John's help. Meanwhile, Bo is having his last rites, needing that medicine that Sean and Kayla and Steven have wanted to try and save Bo's life, but it looks like Bo might be getting his last rites. What I do like about the story, or about Friday's episode is, I guess, what I'm talking about mostly, but it did tie into the end of Thursday's episode. On the Bo side of things, first of all, Sierra comes to visit, and I thought Victoria Conifel, I can't say her name right sometimes, did so great in those scenes in caring for Bo. I like that we had flashbacks, however, to younger Sierra, a different actress when Sierra was younger. So we got flashbacks of younger Sierra with Bo and Hope. But older Sierra, Victoria, did great in those scenes. I want to give her flowers. I never liked the whole Ben and Sierra relationship. I thought, it had its popularity online, but to me, that was one of Ron's first big terrible things, was trying to make a serial killer be likable and the serial killer be a leading man, and that's just not something that works on Days or a soap opera in general to me. So I was never fond of that couple, and I hate that Sierra is tied to that coupling because I think Sierra would be a great character on canvas if we didn't have to deal with that coupling. Alas, seeing her in scenes with Bo, she did amazing. I needed to give her props for the acting in those scenes. Then on the other side of things, with John helping get the medicine, there's this big explosion that John is saving the doctor's life to get him out of the place. Hope also came to help, by the way. She wants to help get the medicine for Bo too, of course. She didn't know John would be helping. And then there's a big explosion. John gets caught on it, and it's not looking good for John, obviously. Now, some John and Marlena fans are upset because, John was supposed to come home. He'd been on this big mission, and he was about to come home. Marlena and Belle and Brady were waiting for him to come home on Thursday's episode, and he never comes. Paul shows up instead, and it's always great to see Paul. Paul's another person I wish was on the show full time. He is the character that can and should push John Black's legacy, I think Paul is a great hero. Alas, Paul shows up, John doesn't. And some John and Marlena fans think that John should have actually he would have went and visited Marlena first before just going on the next mission right away to save Bo. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. Do I think John would have called Marlena? Maybe yes. At least a call before he went from mission to mission before coming home. But John, he's always just been this larger than life hero on the show. And I think John, with the time element that Bo needs his medicine right away or he's about to die, I think he would have shown up for Steve to help save Bo. And yeah, so I don't hate that part of the story. And I also don't hate that there is this actor playing John for a couple episodes here, because we're not seeing his face. We're still supposed to believe it's John. But the great touch to me is that John is now wrapped in bandages, much like the pawn was when he first came to town. The entrance of the John Black character, which, by the way, I am watching over on Patreon, 1986, when the pawn is on the show, when John Black is about to be coming. They're stretching out the story. Drake's not in the role yet from when I'm watching. But over on patreon.com/OCGTV, if you want to come along with me to watch those episodes, please do. But yes, I like that they have John in bandages. I think him going out the way he came in, the way the character came in, is genius. And I think I've seen it online that having Marlena holding John's hands in bandages, much like when she very first met the pawn at the hospital way back in 1986, it's the same exact place. It's a great way to write the character out. So I think overall, the new writers had a large task of writing John off the show. And I think the way they're going about it is the best way that they can. I have no qualms with the way they're writing John out. I think John going out a hero, saving Bo's life. Earlier in the episode, Marlena mentioned that at one point, John and Bo were brothers, because at one point for many years, John thought he was Roman. So, great touches all around. The line that got me, and I don't know why that was the line that made me emotional, is when Steve tells Marlena that, Stephanie used to call himself the Phoenix, but it's John Black is the one that always rises again. That was a great line. I thought Stephen Nichols crying for John possibly dying now was real. We know Stephen Nichols and Drake Hogestyn got really close there. So, and also Steve was involved with the pawn storyline. It's 40 years of history on the show. The pawn storyline, Steve and Bo's tumultuous friendship at the time. It's Bo and Hope's anniversary, 40-year anniversary on today's episode. So having them on today was good timing. Yeah, Friday's episode, I thought they did what they needed to do in making John go out a hero. John should not have died at the hands of Orpheus, or him killing Orpheus, or them killing each other. Orpheus is not that big of a villain to me. If Joseph Mascolo was still alive and Stefano was still alive and John went out killing Stefano, then sure, I could have seen that. But John going out killing Orpheus, nah. I think John going out a hero this way was the right touch. But we also do need to talk about the Alex and Sarah stuff from this past week. Some of you know, some of you don't know. I stopped watching Days for a couple years. I couldn't take Ron's writing anymore. Just couldn't do it. So a lot of this Sarah and Xander relationship, I don't know about. So I come into this, I hear, this year, watching the last few months, that they become somewhat of a popular couple. I'm like, fine, whatever. But there is an element to something I said earlier, that Ben being a leading man after being a serial killer, it was too tough for me to swallow. It's kind of the same as Xander. He's this big villain. He has hurt people. I can't buy him as a leading man in a super couple on Days of Our Lives. I just can't. However, I do think the way they've written it this week And like I said, giving the new writers their flowers to making these people feel real and feel like real emotions. They've done well with this possible breakup for Xander and Sarah because Sarah had kept from Xander the fact that she knew Philip had, I guess, changed some documents to make Philip get some of Victor's stuff. I didn't see that part of the story, but that's what happened. Sarah knew about it. But what did happen from Sarah lying to Xander is Xander and Philip got close. They were feeling like they were really brothers. But then, of course, all this info comes out. And by this week, Xander is beating Philip's ass. Beating him so bad he's left in the hospital. And that was why Sarah kept the info from Xander in the first place. And I liked their scenes with that whole confrontation. Because Xander was angry, but you could see how hurt he was in Sarah's lack of trust. That Sarah, for the first time, well, Sarah at the time when she first started lying to Xander said she lied because she hoped it would keep Xander on the right track and out of prison, and she wanted Xander to be there to raise their daughter. And now what Xander did to Philip proves that she didn't make the wrong choice, because what he did to Philip's what Xander did to Philip proved that what she did was the right choice, because it kept him on the straight and narrow and not with all these anger issues and not, beating Philip within an inch of his life. So their scenes, I thought, made me more invested in them as a potential couple, because it's not writing Xander like they tried to do with Ben back in the day under Ron as, oh, he's just a changed man. Sure, he's killed some people, but he's a changed man. They are still writing Xander as having that edge that makes Xander Xander. So I like that. I don't know if I like Philip getting beaten so badly by him in the first place, but yeah, they at least got me a little more invested in that couple this week. I think that's all I'm going to talk about today. I have enjoyed this past week. There was some stuff over the past 2 weeks I liked too. Y'all know I like Chanel and Johnny, and I hope that they can be pushed more in the forefront under these new writers, because I think they actually do work well together. We'll see what they do with Jada and Sean. We've talked about them having chemistry. I know there's still plenty of Belle and Sean fans, and this is Days of Our Lives, and everyone wants their super couples to be end games, but there's a lot of potential with Sean and Jada that I hope the show lets play out. Belle and EJ are never going to be a long-term thing, I don't think. And I don't know if they should be. But there is a lot of story here with this potential quad triangle that I think could make me very interested. But going into these next 2 weeks, I think next week's going to be a very tough week to watch, because we are going to have to deal with the death of John Black and all of that aftermath. And then eventually, hopefully, Bo will be better and be able to return. I do hope Bo makes it to the funeral. I mean, John did save his life, so I hope that is the case. But we're going to have some returns over these next couple of weeks to deal with John's death and his funeral. It's going to be a tough watch. Doug's funeral was a tough watch, so this will probably be even tougher for me personally. Yeah. The new writing, though, overall, I like it. They still have a long way to go to fix and keep going with a lot of Ron stories and Ron's characters, but I hope by some point in the summer we could start seeing where they start taking a lot of these characters, especially with the big anniversary coming up for the show overall. It's an exciting time for Days, though. It actually is starting to feel like Days of Our Lives again, and couldn't ask for more than that, I guess. It's not some badly written soap sitcom that Ron tried to make it, that's for sure.